Hello, my friends. Welcome back to English Listening Moment. Today, we are going to talk about something that can completely change the way you speak English. We are going to talk about thinking in English. This episode is for anyone who translates words in their mind before speaking. It is for learners who know the grammar and vocabulary but still feel slow when they talk. It is for people who understand English well but struggle to respond quickly in conversations. If this sounds familiar, you are not alone. Millions of English learners face this same challenge every single day. Let me ask you a question. When someone speaks to you in English, what happens in your mind? Do you hear the English words, translate them into your native language, think of a response in your native language, and then translate that response back into English before you speak? If you do this, you are using a very slow process. This process makes conversations difficult. It makes you feel nervous and tired. It stops you from speaking naturally and confidently. The truth is simple. If you want to speak English fluently, you must learn to think in English. You cannot rely on translation forever. Translation is a tool that helps beginners, but it becomes a barrier for intermediate and advanced learners. It slows you down. It creates mistakes. It stops you from understanding the natural flow of the language. When you think in English, everything changes. Your responses become faster. Your sentences sound more natural. You feel more confident and relaxed. You stop worrying about grammar rules because your brain starts to feel what sounds right. But here's the problem. Most learners do not know how to stop translating. They have been translating for so long that it feels automatic. They believe they need translation to understand. They fear that without translation, they will make mistakes or say the wrong thing, so they keep translating, and the habit becomes stronger. Over time, this habit blocks their progress. They stay at the same level for months or even years. They feel frustrated because they study hard but still cannot speak smoothly. This episode will help you understand why thinking in English is so important. It will show you how to build this habit step by step, and it will give you practical exercises that you can start using today. You do not need to be advanced to start thinking in English. You can start right now, no matter what your level is. Even beginners can practice simple thoughts in English. The key is to start small and be consistent. So, why is translation such a big problem? Let me explain. When you translate, your brain works in two languages at the same time. This takes a lot of energy and time. Imagine you are having a conversation. Someone asks you a question in English. If you translate the question into your language, think of an answer, and then translate the answer back into English before you speak, you are doing 4 steps instead of 1. By the time you finish translating, the conversation may have already moved forward. You miss your chance to respond naturally. You feel left behind, and this makes you more nervous. Translation also creates mistakes. When you think in your native language and translate word for word, the grammar and word order may not match English. Different languages have different structures. What sounds correct in your language may sound strange or wrong in English. For example, in some languages, the verb comes at the end of the sentence. In English, the verb usually comes in the middle. If you translate directly, your sentence will not sound natural. Listeners may understand you, but they will notice that something is not quite right. Another problem with translation is that it disconnects you from the real meaning of words. When you translate, you are always thinking of equivalence. You're always comparing. But many English words do not have exact matches in other languages. Some words carry feelings, culture, or context that cannot be translated perfectly. When you think in English, you connect with the true meaning of the word. You understand it in its natural environment. You see how native speakers use it in different situations. This deep understanding cannot come from translation. Now, let me tell you something important. Thinking in English does not mean you forget your native language. It does not mean you lose your culture or identity. It simply means that when you use English, your brain works in English mode. You switch between languages depending on the situation. This is called code switching, and it is a natural skill that bilingual and multilingual people develop. It does not harm your brain. In fact, it makes your brain stronger and more flexible. So, how do you start thinking in English? The first step is to stop translating on purpose. I know this sounds scary, but it is necessary. You must give your brain permission to work directly in English. Start with simple thoughts. Do not try to think complex ideas in English right away. Begin with what you see and do every day. When you wake up in the morning, say to yourself, in English, I am awake. It is morning. I feel tired. I need coffee. These are simple sentences, but they train your brain to use English automatically. Throughout the day, describe your actions in English inside your mind. When you brush your teeth, think, I am brushing my teeth. When you eat breakfast, think, I am eating toast. I am drinking tea. This might feel strange at first, but it is very effective. You are creating a habit. You are teaching your brain that English is not just for studying or speaking with others, it is also for thinking and living. Another powerful exercise is to label things around you in English. Look at objects in your room. Say their names in English without translating. If you see a chair, think chair. If you see a window, think window. Do not say the word in your language first. Go directly to English. This builds a direct connection between the object and the English word. Over time, your brain will stop needing translation. You will see something, and the English word will appear automatically in your mind. You can also practice thinking in English by talking to yourself. Yes, I am serious. Talk to yourself in English when you are alone. Describe what you are doing. Talk about your plans for the day. Share your opinions about something you saw or read. Imagine conversations with other people. This might feel silly, but it is one of the best ways to practice. When you talk to yourself, there is no pressure. You can make mistakes. You can pause. You can repeat. You can experiment with new words and sentences. And because you are doing it alone, you feel safe and relaxed. Listening is also very important. When you listen to English, try to understand without translating. Let the meaning come to you naturally. If you do not understand a word, try to guess from the context. Do not rush to translate it. Listen to the whole sentence or paragraph. Often, the meaning becomes clear without translation. This trains your brain to think in English while listening. It also helps you understand faster and more naturally. Reading in English is another helpful practice. When you read, do not translate every word. Try to understand the general meaning. Let your eyes move forward. If you stop and translate every word, reading becomes slow and frustrating. Instead, read for pleasure. Read stories, articles, or blogs that interest you. When you enjoy what you read, your brain relaxes and absorbs the language more easily. Over time, you will notice that you understand more and more without needing translation. Now let me share a very important point. Thinking in English is not about being perfect. You do not need to think in perfect grammar. Native speakers do not think in perfect grammar either. When people think, their thoughts are often incomplete, messy, or simple. That is completely normal. Your goal is not to think like a textbook. Your goal is to think naturally and quickly in English. Even if your thoughts are simple or have small mistakes, it does not matter. What matters is that you are using English directly without going through translation. Some learners worry that thinking in English will make them forget their native language. This is not true. Your native language is deeply rooted in your mind. You have used it since childhood. A few hours of thinking in English each day will not erase that. In fact, studies show that learning and using multiple languages makes your brain healthier and sharper. It improves memory, focus, and problem-solving skills. So you are not losing anything. You are gaining something valuable. It is also important to be patient with yourself. Thinking in English is a skill, and like any skill, it takes time to develop. You will not wake up tomorrow thinking perfectly in English. It is a gradual process. At first, you may only think simple words or short sentences. That is okay. Every small step counts. Every English thought you create is progress. Do not compare yourself to others. Focus on your own journey. Celebrate small victories. Notice when you think a word in English without translating. Notice when you respond faster in a conversation. These are signs that your brain is changing. One common mistake learners make is waiting until they feel ready. They say, "I will start thinking in English when my vocabulary is bigger." Or they say, "I will try this when my grammar improves." But this is backwards. Thinking in English is not the final step. It is part of the learning process. It actually helps you learn faster. When you think in English, you use the language actively. You create sentences in your mind. You practice without even realizing it. This active use strengthens your memory and understanding. So do not wait. Start now, even if you only know a few hundred words. Let me give you a simple daily routine that you can follow. When you wake up, spend 2 minutes thinking in English about your day. What will you do? How do you feel? During breakfast, describe your food in English. On your way to work or school, look around and name things you see in English. During your lunch break, think about your morning in English. What did you do? What went well? In the evening, reflect on your day in English. What did you learn? What made you happy? Before you sleep, think about tomorrow in English. This routine takes only a few minutes, but if you do it every day, it will create a strong habit. Another helpful technique is to change the language of your devices. Set your phone, computer, and apps to English. This forces you to read and think in English many times a day. At first, it may feel inconvenient, but soon it becomes normal. You start recognizing words and phrases quickly. Your brain gets used to seeing English everywhere. This constant exposure helps you think in English more naturally. You can also keep a simple journal in English. Every night, write a few sentences about your day. Do not worry about grammar or spelling. Just write what comes to your mind. This practice helps you organize your thoughts in English. It also gives you a record of your progress. After a few weeks or months, you can read your old entries and see how much you have improved. Remember, thinking in English is not magic. It is a habit. And habits are built through repetition and consistency. The more you practice, the easier it becomes. At first, it requires effort and focus, but after some time, it starts to happen automatically. You will notice that English words appear in your mind without effort. You will catch yourself thinking in English without planning to. This is when you know the habit is becoming strong. As we come to the end of this episode, I want to leave you with one final thought. Thinking in English is the bridge between learning and fluency. It is the moment when English stops being a subject you study and becomes a language you live in. It is the key to speaking naturally, understanding deeply, and communicating confidently. You do not need permission to start. You do not need perfect skills. You just need the willingness to try. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of English Listening Moment. I hope this inspires you to begin thinking in English today. Start small. Be patient. Trust the process. Your brain is powerful, and it can do amazing things when you give it the right practice. Keep listening, keep learning, and keep believing in yourself. See you in the next episode. Bye for now.